I want to start today with a little visualization exercise. If you're driving, please keep your eyes on the road, but just let your mind's eye do the work here. I want you to picture the single most iconic image of Japan.
Oh, I know exactly what it is.
If I say Japanese art, what's the first thing you see?
It's that massive, almost claw-like wave, right? It's frozen in time, about to just crash down on these three tiny little boats.
And in the background?
A snow-capped mountain. Right. Just sitting there, completely unbothered by all the chaos.
Exactly. The Great Wave off Kanagawa.
Yeah.
It is absolutely everywhere. It's on T-shirts, coffee mugs, tattoos, probably the wall of your local sushi place.
It's even the little blue wave emoji on your phone.
It is. It's arguably the most recognized piece of Asian art in human history.
It's ubiquitous, but here's the thing we need to clear up right away. That image, it wasn't made by some, ancient monk meditating in a Zen garden. It was created by a guy who was basically the biggest influencer of the 19th century. A man who didn't have a smartphone, just a woodblock, a bowl of ink, and a personality that was, well, let's just call it intense.
Intense is a very polite way of putting it. I mean, we're talking about a man who changed his professional name over 30 times.
Moved house 93 times.
And despite never leaving Japan, he somehow managed to teach European masters like Van Gogh and Monet how to actually see the world.
So today we are doing a deep dive into the life of Katsushika Hokusai. We're working from a really fascinating article by Anita Louise Hummel called Katsushika Hokusai, the old man mad about drawing who changed the world.
And our mission is to figure out how this eccentric artist completely conquered the globe and why he famously believed his best work wouldn't even happen until he turned 110.
It's an incredible study in obsession. To understand the old man mad about drawing, though, you have to go back to the beginning.
Back to the young boy. He was born in 1760 in Edo, what we now call Tokyo. His birth name was Tokitaro. And his origin story, it really starts with his father's job.
Right. His father was a mirror maker for the shogunate.
And I think it's important to clarify what a mirror actually was in 1760s Japan. We are not talking about glass with a silver backing like you have in your bathroom.
No, not even close. We're talking about highly polished bronze or metal. The front was buffed until it was reflective, but the back was basically a canvas.
So his father would paint these intricate designs on the back of the mirrors.
Exactly. So imagine being a young boy, just watching your dad manipulate line and form on this hard, unforgiving surface. That's probably where he caught the drawing bug.
But he doesn't stay in the family business. At 14, he makes a pivot. He enters what I kind of think of as the tech school of the Edo period.
He becomes an apprentice to a woodblock engraver.
We shouldn't just gloss over that term. Woodblock printing sounds kind of like a quaint little hobby.
Something you do at a weekend workshop. But in the Edo period, this was the tech stack. This was mass media.
And it was physically brutal work. You're not just brushing paint on a canvas where you can cover up a mistake. You're taking a sketch, pasting it onto a block of cherry wood.
And then carving away everything that isn't the line.
It's subtractive.
Precisely. You have to be perfect, down to the millimeter, because these blocks had to print thousands of copies. If your hand slips, the block is ruined. There's no Control-Z.
So that was his boot camp. He spent years just mastering the technical side before he could really design the art himself. And the whole industry he was entering was called ukiyo-e.
Ukiyo-e. It's such a beautiful term. It means pictures of the floating world.
Which sounds incredibly spiritual, right?
Yeah.
Almost Buddhist, like it's about meditation or the afterlife or something.
Well, originally the term floating world did come from Buddhist ideas about the, impermanence of life. But by Hokusai's time, the meaning had completely flipped.
It became about the pleasures of the floating world.
It was pop culture, 100%. It was pictures of kabuki actors, famous courtesans, sumo wrestlers, city nightlife. If Instagram existed in the 1700s, it would just be a feed of ukiyo-e.
So Hokusai starts his career basically making posters of the Kardashians and the Brad Pitts of the 18th century.
Yeah.
But this is where his personality starts to kind of derail the standard career path.
He wasn't exactly a company man. He joined the studio of a master, Katsukawa Shinshu, but Hokusai was just restless. He was always looking at other styles.
And that leads to his identity crisis. Or maybe his identity strategy. You know how a modern musician might rebrand for a new album?
Like Prince changing his name to a symbol?
Hokusai did that, but on steroids. Yeah. Every single time he felt his style evolved or he learned a new technique, he'd drop his old name and just pick up a new one.
We're talking at least 30 times. It's a total nightmare for art historians trying to track his work.
But it tells you so much about his mindset. He refused to be static. If the art changed, well, the artist's name had to change too.
And one of his later names is the most telling of all, Gakurojin,
which translates to the old man mad about drawing.
He just owned it. That was his brand. He wasn't doing it for fame. He was doing it because he couldn't not do it.
But even the name changing, it pales in comparison to the moving habit. This is the part of the article that just made me laugh out loud. The man reportedly moved house 93 times.
93 times.
It's mathematically absurd. If you live to be 90, that's more than once a year.
Yeah.
Every single year.
Why? Why would anyone do that?
Because he hated cleaning.
I mean, I hate cleaning too, but I just, shove things in a closet.
Not Hokusai. The legend is he would just let his studio fill up with trash, ink stains, food scraps, whatever, until it was literally uninhabitable. And instead of picking up a broom,
he'd just pack his brushes and move to a new rental.
It's so wildly inefficient, but it also says everything about his priorities. He had zero bandwidth for anything that wasn't drawing. If sweeping the floor took 10 minutes away from sketching, he just wasn't doing it. And that singular focus is what sets him up for his big breakthrough, which came so late in his career. Because Hokusai didn't create the series that made him immortal until he was in his 70s.
That is just wild context. I mean, in the 1830s, being in your 70s was ancient. You were supposed to be retired, sipping tea.
Hokusai was just hitting his creative prime.
The ultimate late bloomer. And this is when he releases 36 views of Mount Fuji.
And this series, it just completely shifted the paradigm of Japanese art.
Yeah.
Because before this, landscapes weren't really the main event, were they? They were just sort of wallpaper behind a samurai.
Exactly. Hokusai flipped that script. He made the mountain the main character. He drew Fuji from every angle in every season. But there was another reason these prints just exploded. And it wasn't just the composition, it was the color.
Oh, we have to talk about the blue. That blue in the Great Wave, it just punches you in the face.
Prussian blue.
This is such a cool detail. Before this, Japanese artists were using what? Indigo?
Mostly vegetable dyes.
Yeah.
And they were beautiful, but they were soft, and they were fugitive, meaning they'd fade pretty quickly in the light. Prussian blue was a synthetic pigment imported from Europe.
So it was high-tech.
It was the vivid, high-def 4K of its time. It was deep, saturated, and it didn't fade. Hokusai saw this new color and realized he could create a contrast between sky and water that nobody had ever seen in ukiyo-e before.
And he leaned into it hard.
It let him create that deep, moody ocean that makes the white foam just pop.
Which brings us right back to the Great Wave. Let's actually deconstruct this image for a second, because it's so much more than just a picture of a wave. It's a masterclass in tension.
It really is. It's so violent. If you look at the foam, he draws it almost like these sharp claws. It feels predatory, like it's reaching for those three little boats.
And the boats are so low in the water, just completely at the mercy of the ocean. You can even see the tiny little figures inside just holding on for dear life.
But then right in the center, through that hollow of the wave, you see Mount Fuji. And it's tiny, but it's perfectly still, perfectly calm.
It's the anchor in all the chaos.
Exactly. The contrast between the wild fractal motion of the water and the spiritual stillness of the mountain, that's what makes the image work. But there's another technical layer here, the perspective.
This is where his tech school background comes in again. The image, it doesn't look purely Japanese, does it? It has a real sense of depth.
That's because he was using linear perspective. That's a Western idea. Using a low horizon line and vanishing points to create 3D space on a 2D surface. Traditional Japanese art was much flatter.
But wait, Japan was a closed country then. The Sakoku policy. How's he learning Renaissance art techniques in Edo?
Smuggling, pretty much.
Right.
The Dutch were the only Europeans allowed to trade with Japan, and Hokusai got his hands on some of their copperplate prints and scientific engravings. He studied them.
He saw how they created depth and thought, I can use that.
So the Great Wave is really a hybrid. It's a Japanese subject made with Japanese woodblock tools, but using a Western composition technique and a new European synthetic blue.
It's a fusion dish. And that fusion is exactly why it hit so hard when it finally got to Europe.
Which brings us to my absolute favorite part of this whole story, the wrapping paper incident.
It sounds like an urban legend, but it's true, right?
It's one of the greatest happy accidents in art history. So in the 1850s, Japan is forced to open its borders. Suddenly, all this trade floods into Europe. French collectors are buying up Japanese porcelain, tea sets.
But Hokusai's prints, they weren't considered high art in Japan. They were mass-produced. They were pop culture.
They were cheap, like using old newspapers for packing material. So Japanese merchants would just crumple them up to cushion the vases.
Can you imagine being an artist in Paris You order a vase, you open the box, you pull out this wadded up piece of paper, you smooth it out, and it's a Hokusai masterpiece.
It was a total revelation. I mean, artists like Monet, Degas, and especially Vincent van Gogh, they had never seen anything like it. They were used to the rigid rules of the French Academy, lots of heavy shadows, realism.
And suddenly, here's art with these bold, flat colors, no shadows, these really interesting cropped angles.
It sparked a whole movement called Japonism. And Van Gogh wasn't just a fan, he was a stan.
Oh, completely. He collected hundreds of these prints. He pinned them all over his studio walls. He even copied them in oil paint just to try and figure out how they worked.
And if you look at Van Gogh's The Starry Night, one of the most famous Western paintings ever, the influence is it's undeniable.
It's in the swirls, isn't it?
Absolutely. The way Van Gogh paints the wind and the clouds in Starry Night has this churning fluid energy that is so similar to the structure of Hokusai's Great Wave.
So you can literally draw a direct line from the old man mad about drawing in Edo straight to the post-impressionist explosion in Paris. He basically taught the West how to simplify.
And that you don't need photorealism to capture the feeling of the thing.
And his legacy didn't stop there. I mean, we see it in Art Nouveau, obviously, but also in something way more modern, manga.
He actually coined the term. He published these sketchbooks called Hokusai Manga.
Right, but we aren't talking about, Naruto or One Piece.
No. Back then, manga just meant whimsical pictures or impromptu sketches. But it was pages and pages of people in motion, funny faces, animals. The whole lineage of modern Japanese visual storytelling starts right there.
And, to bring it full circle, that little blue wave emoji on your phone.
A direct pixel-for-pixel reference to Hokusai. He is the influencer that never died.
He really is. But, despite all of that, despite Van Gogh, despite the emoji, the fame, the most powerful part of his story for me is his humility.
Yes. You'd think a guy who produced 30,000 works of art would have an ego the size of Mount Fuji.
But he felt like a perpetual beginner. He genuinely believed he hadn't made it yet. There's that famous quote from his deathbed. He's 88 years old.
And his final wish wasn't for fame or more money.
I have it here. He said, "If heaven gives me 10 more years, or an extension of even 5 years, I shall surely become a true artist."
It still gives me chills. At 88, after creating the Great Wave, he thought he wasn't a true artist yet. He had this whole timeline in his head where he said at 90 he would penetrate the mystery of things.
And at a 1 in 10, every dot and every line would be alive. He was playing the really, really long game.
He saw art not as a destination, but as a path, a way of seeing the world. He just wanted to capture the life of the thing he was drawing.
It's such a counter-narrative to our world. We're so obsessed with 30 under 30 lists and being a prodigy. Hokusai is basically telling us, relax, you haven't even started yet.
It's a powerful idea that your great wave might still be decades away.
So I guess that's the question I want to leave everyone with today. Hokusai believed his mastery wouldn't really arrive until he was 110. If you adopted that mindset, if you truly believed your absolute best work wouldn't happen until you were in your 70s or 80s, what would you start learning today?
It does take the pressure off, doesn't it? It gives you permission to just be a student again.
Absolutely. Go find your inner Hokusai. Maybe, hire a cleaner, but definitely find that passion.
Keep drawing.
We want to thank you for diving into the floating world with us. This deep dive was based on that fantastic article by Anita Louise Hummel.
And if you enjoyed this story, you really should check out more of her work. She has such a deep passion for art education. It's really inspiring.
Yes, please make sure you subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss our next deep dive. But also, head over to YouTube and subscribe to the Anita Louise Art channel. The visuals there really bring these stories to life.
And don't forget to sign up for her newsletter and check out the blog. It's just a treasure trove of information on great artists and movements. It's the perfect resource to keep that spark of inspiration going.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
We'll see you next time.